Something else very disturbing today, yesterday and today. Does protesting against the Chinese dictatorship now get you banned from the Australian Parliament under this Albanese government? Really? Drew Pavlou has been on the show a number of times. He's been campaigning against the Chinese communist dictatorship's oppression of Uyghurs, Tibetans, Hong Kong Democrats, you name it, they'll oppress it, and has been arrested here for it. In July, Pavlou was also arrested again, this time outside the Chinese embassy in London, planning to glue his hand to the joint. He was handcuffed, held for 23 hours, and falsely accused by the embassy of planning terrorism. There was a fake report of bomb or something, completely false. Anyway, yesterday, Pavlou was in our Parliament House for meetings with two MPs, the Liberals' James Paterson, a real hawk on national security, and Labor's Peter Khalil, also a security hardhead. Now, after meeting Paterson, Pavlou was sitting at the cafe in Parliament House having a coffee when two federal police officers came up to him, threw him out, saying they're acting on the orders of a boss. Now, here is Pavlou's recording of what they told him, and I find this very disturbing. What exactly is the allegation here? That is a protester against China? And note also the threat of arrest.
Because you're an active protester, there are only active protesters in the House.
I'm not an active protester, I'm not protesting.
Basically, because the House is deemed you high risk, and obviously...
High risk. Obviously, I've been invited to meet by MPs and stuff, so why would I glue myself to pay things and ruin my meetings with MPs?
I agree with you, yeah. Unfortunately, it has come down from higher up that they would prefer you to leave right now.
So out he went. Now, I talked a short while ago to Drew Pavlou, and just at the end of our talk, I got a text from the Australian Federal Police trying to explain this. So watch for the end of this. Thank you so much for joining me. Have you heard any more from the police or anyone else as to why it is that they threw you out yesterday?
Thanks so much for having me on, Andrew. I have not heard anything from the Australian Federal Police as to why I was expelled yesterday from the Parliament. I still don't understand why. Yesterday I was expelled from the Parliament, and yet today I'm allowed to walk freely inside the Parliament, as any member of the public should be able to do. I mean, this is the hall of our democracy, the house of our democracy, and this is the seat of our nation's democracy. This is what we're fighting for, and any Australian citizen should be able to freely enter the halls of Parliament and observe our elected representatives and meet with them and try and lobby for action and change. I think it's just absolutely terrible for our democracy if someone can be flagged as high risk as a protester simply because they've previously attended a protest before in their life and suddenly get thrown out of Parliament. They're not allowed to walk through the halls of Parliament simply because they attended a protest 5 years ago. I mean, no one understands why I was designated high risk, why they designated me as this active protester when I was literally there just having my lunch with two friends in between meetings with MPs and senators. I was officially invited by these MPs and senators. And
well, in that video we saw of you when the police arrived, I could see a cup of coffee there. Did you have anything else about your person that might have made you look suspicious, like glue for sticking your hand on something, or a pot of paint or something like that? Anything that looked suspicious that you might be up to no good?
No, absolutely not. So I passed through security checkpoint earlier in the morning to meet with Senator James Paterson. I was inside the Parliament House for quite a while before I was confronted about lunchtime. I was sitting there eating nachos, drinking coffee. These are not known protest items, I believe. And yeah, suddenly I was then confronted by 5 Australian Federal Police officers. My friend went to the bathroom. He had Australian Federal Police officers waiting for him when he left the bathroom. We were being treated like we were terror suspects when we were just sitting there eating lunch at the end in between meetings with MPs and senators. It's just shocking. I mean, I was invited to meet with the Intelligence Committee Chair, Peter Khalil, and I was invited to meet with James Paterson, Senator. And, you know, I was in between official meetings. And, you know, I've actually testified before Parliament before. I testified before the Intelligence Committee of Parliament about the effort by the University of Queensland to kick me out of the university a couple of years ago. I've actually testified before Parliament before. I've technically spoken before a parliamentary committee. And so suddenly they're treating me like I'm some kind of high risk individual. It's bizarre, and they haven't explained to anyone why.
If the police are going to be throwing out people who have a history of protesting, then probably there wouldn't be a single Greens MP left in Parliament. I mean, how many of them have been? Throw out Lydia Thorpe. She's a veteran protester. Honestly, this is really weird. Do you think it's got anything to do with the people that you've protested against, China?
Yes. I think the reason I was designated high risk and the reason I was expelled was because I'm a protester against the Chinese government. So I think that's what makes all the difference. As you say, there are people that go into Parliament all the time to meet with MPs, and they might be, environmental activists, they might be union activists, they might be, activists for all sorts of issues, and they have a right to democratically, they have a right to meet with democratically elected representatives and engage with our national Parliament. The national Parliament only functions with the aid of civic society. I mean, that's what a thriving democracy is all about. But I don't understand why the red line is suddenly appears when it comes to protests against the Chinese government. I don't know why suddenly protests against the Chinese government are treated so sensitively such that if you've been a protest against the Chinese government before, they will just designate you a high risk individual and expel you under risk of arrest for trespass. They'll expel you from Parliament if you're just having lunch because you once protested against the Chinese government. It's bizarre.
Drew, I've just been sent a text from the Australian Federal Police, so we have got an answer. They say you weren't banned. I mean, we actually heard the police in that thing. It sounded like you were banned. You were thrown out. You weren't banned. You were told you could come back. They've let you in today because you made clear your intention not to do anything. You gave them undertakings, and you were very clear about what you were doing. And it is wrong to say you were banned. What's your reaction to that?
Oh, so true, Andrew. I mean, I commend the Australian Federal Police on somehow managing to bend the laws of physics. I mean, Schrodinger's cat, I was banned, but at the same time not banned. They told me that if I was to stay and resist their undertaking to leave straight away, I'd be potentially charged with trespass and potentially arrested. But it's amazing that somehow does not constitute a ban on entering Parliament. I mean, they've somehow bent the laws of physics. I commend them. I mean, must be amazing physicists inside Australian Federal Police HQ to somehow discover these new laws of nature.
It is weird. I think we need a proper explanation, to be honest. I heard them say you'd be arrested. That constitutes, as you say, a ban to me. They said it was the bosses. I'd like to know which boss and why. Drew Pavlou, thank you so much indeed for your time.